Right, welcome back to the Thrive Thru podcast. I'm Bryan, and we are putting out the platform of Thrive Thru, which is giving mental health a voice. And that's all about bringing down the stigma of mental health, these barriers that we all face in life, and hopefully the stories that we share can inspire others to not only deal with their mental health, but thrive through it as well. So I'm joined with Nik McGowan today, and Nik and I became friends a couple of years ago now when I wrote an article just in his local area about a mental health group, and it was just a big feature. Nick's story stood out above everybody else's, really. I was just really intrigued, and just the more I learned about Nick's background and basically why he does the projects that he's involved in, I found it really, really inspiring. So one of these is called Higher Self, which I'll let Nick speak a bit more about in a minute. But basically, it's a clothing brand that supports, where the profit supports young people at risk and underprivileged teens and any kind of issues that they are facing. So Nick, it has been a while. How you doing anyway?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How you doing? You all right?
I'm all right. We're getting there. Just annoying that we can't do this in person, obviously, because I think when anytime we've kind of done anything like that before in person, we've just had really engaging conversations that have just kind of, especially when we're talking about the topics that we do, because a lot of it has been about mental health, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yep, a lot of the conversations have been about mental health, yeah. The one I think it was the one we covered before was to do with my PTSD, and we've done an article on that before, didn't we? We talked on that. And I think that was one of the first time, I've spoken about it a lot, but I guess that was probably one of the first time that I opened up to a lot more people than what
I'll give you a quick plug here, and myself. So basically, it was one of the most what's the word? People engaged with it most out of a lot of our content at the time, because we were fairly a new platform at the time. And Nick shared a story on his experience with PTSD, basically what caused it, how it's made him. So that is available on thrivethru.co.uk. That's the plug over and done with, Nick. But like I say, I mean, a lot of people contacted us, both of us actually, especially you, just through social media and stuff, and just told you how inspired they were by your story, because you've went through, but basically where you are now from what you went through. I mean, how do you sum that up? Must be quite kind of looking back on that and go, wow, do you know what I mean? That was a big journey.
It doesn't, like, when I think of me before, like, it doesn't even feel, it feels like a whole lifetime ago. It doesn't even feel like the same person. It's been a bit of a journey to get from where I used to be to get to where I am now, but I'm glad I'm there. It took a while, but it's all good now. It's been good.
Yeah. Thing is, like, what I always took from what you do is that you've kind of spent a lot of time like helping yourself out, and now you're kind of investing all that back into people that, I don't know, is it fair to say that you see yourself in them a wee bit in terms of the people that you help now?
Kids I help now, yeah, they do. I'm still just a wee Ned at heart. But I'm Glasgow, born and bred, grew up I've been born in schemes my whole life. That's where I grew up in. That's where I feel comfortable. I think they're the salt. I think the people are the salt of the earth, and that's the kids now that I try to help as much as I can in the schools. The kids that I feel like don't get enough help from, what would you say, the government stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, especially when we're talking about young people, and they can be viewed in many different ways, and we're in a very disparate society now. So it's I don't know, like, even when, I think the main thing that I took from some of our conversations before is that kind of these young people, especially people that you help from kind of like tougher backgrounds, whatever, the bottom line is, like, whatever they've went through, wherever they are, it's not their fault.
No.
And therefore people should, whatever they're involved in, whether it be school or whatever, they should be treated as equal. And if it's additional support or whatever, then that needs to be looked at and given, I suppose, just given a better understanding of their background as well, isn't it?
Yeah, like, if you don't ever stop to ask the kid what's up or what's in their background, or try to have a look into that, how are you ever going to know how to help them?
Yeah.
Like, if you don't take that time to get to know if you don't take the time to actually get to know the person, how are you ever meant to know? Sometimes I think they think the teachers or whoever it may be, I think sometimes they feel like it's just I don't know, they're too difficult. So because they're difficult, they don't bother even want to try, and it's just a vicious circle. Really.
And this is the thing, it's a kind of dangerous word, isn't it? Because when you're viewed it as difficult, that's basically on a metric. Like, I remember we had a conversation before, and it could be something as simple as drawing a comparison of like two kids, one does their homework, one doesn't. But until you kind of maybe I'm talking about if it's like a pattern, if it's a pattern, but when you're drawing these two things together, and not looking at them individually, instead looking at a kind of metric that teachers are bound to do, whether it's through the education system, whatever. But there's obviously a lot more going on at home that's kind of making a child who they are and developing them as they go through a quite crucial stage of their life.
Yep, I would agree. Not don't get me wrong, like there's like not everybody that comes from a working class family grows up like that. Do you know what I mean? There is, I guess, sometimes in a lot of kids' lives, there's reasons to why they act out, there's reasons to their behaviour. And I think sometimes if certain individuals would take that time to get to know the reasons, maybe they would understand that youth's behaviour.
Yeah, well, let's talk a wee bit about what this kind of acting out is, because I suppose part of our job today is obviously just to try and it's just kind of canvas the type of people that we're talking about. You deal with quite a specific demographic.
Yeah, they can be quite troublesome.
Yeah, I mean, like I think, and that's the thing. I mean, I'm being careful with my kind of language there, but I suppose this is part of the problem. Is
you have your own opinions, I'd imagine, about like that certain like you like.
Well, I mean, let's just lay that straight. Like, I mean, we're both from working class backgrounds, right?
Yeah,
but we're totally different people. We're totally different.
Yes.
You know, so and we knew that straight away. Do you know what I mean? But when we got to know each other, it was a case of, oh, so that makes all right. So you're all that because of this. Oh, so that's why you did this. Get it? And suddenly, you find that a lot of your kind of intense ambitions and ambitions, especially, align, and you can make a lot of good from that. What I took from one of the first things that stand out in your page, Nik, is that you talk about. I think you said before you predominantly deal with maybe kind of young men, young teens, maybe, and they were kind of grown up as maybe kind of like angry young men, right? And that's something that resonated with you. So let's just dive into a wee bit, and why is that? Like, why is that? I mean, what makes them like that? What is obviously because again, to underline, it's not their fault for whatever way they're like acting out or whatever, however we want to put it, but yes, where does that come from?
I guess it comes from a whole manner of places, and dealing with the kids that I dealt with and knowing their stories. It comes from maybe losing a parent, being angry because of that. It comes from abuse at home. It comes from maybe it comes from a lack of money as well. Sometimes it can be a financial point of view. Well, maybe they don't have enough money to even like get food and all that. They don't have money. Some of the kids that I've known they've had to do stuff like some of the kids I've known that you wouldn't expect. Like they're actually dealing, like I know for a fact, dealing drugs that you're dealing with just in order to get money so they can like have money to go to school and do all that.
Yeah.
If they never done all that, the family wouldn't have that. Like that's insane. Like that, like just take that a second. Like that kid has to do that so that they've got the £45 a week extra to send them to school. That's mental to me. Like the fact that that even has to happen in a society that we're in. It's just, I think it's
a great example, because what you've done there is you've given me a reason why. So there's two sides of that. So someone that just sees things as black and white will see a young person is dealing drugs. That is wrong. But what we're doing here is now, well, if you actually took a second to learn a wee bit about that story and get in, help these people that are maybe doing things that I don't know, deemed wrong, and I know there's lots of examples like that, not just when it comes to like the kind of financial side of things, but in terms of like you mentioned a moment ago about kids maybe kind of suffering abuse at home or things like that. At a very crucial age, you're developing all kinds of things that can stick with you, things that develop when you're young in terms of mental health issues. But even just to start with, what develops quite young is anxiety, which we both know, and and how that attaches, how how that sticks to kids kind of growing up, especially in their teens. I mean, I think we've both spoke about anxiety before, but I think we were both quite anxious
Yeah,
kids. You know what I mean? Even I think even today we're both, we're not kind of 100% there. But I think what's thing is about anxiety, it is a normal emotion, but I think it becomes a wee bit more controlling of you when it's attached from like an earlier age and kind of taken, maybe played a bigger part in your life and prevented you doing things. I mean, like, I don't know if you, I mean, I hope you don't mind kind of sharing a wee bit about your experiences with anxiety, for example, and how that was going to kind of growing up in terms of how you see that in other people.
Yeah, I was quite an anxious kid growing up. I was always kind of anxious, and then I had, so my life, I had a bit of a start to life. It is what it is. Everybody's got a past, and then there was an accident that happened that I witnessed and I was part of. We've done the whole story, and I ended up with PTSD. And that's what I found out later on. That's what it was, but that was rough. Like, growing up with any sort of mental health issue, which a lot of them do have, and they're undiagnosed because they're so young, and all they want to do is medicate them instead of actually try to help the problem and deal with the problem. Like, that can be very difficult, and it doesn't even need to be mental health issues. It can be like, a lot of them are dyslexic as well, and they don't have the right tools to help them to get. Like, they don't have the right tools to be able to get it. Like, they don't have the funds to be able to have like Chromebooks or laptops. They just don't have it. So they just can't keep up with the rest, and because they're already so far behind, the schools don't have the funding then to put money into the kids to help them, because it's just a vicious circle, and it just all seems to always end up with the working class youth missing out.
Yeah.
I guess, to me.
Yeah, I mean, look at what's happening just now when kids had to go back to homework and or home learning, I should say.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's when it really shone a light on who weren't equipped with the tools, because so many families were relying on having their children sent to school for stability, for safety, to have safer childcare, and all these different reasons. I mean, that's why it's been such a big factor in keeping schools open throughout the last year. It has, so I don't know, do you think this is one of those things that now, because a light has been kind of shone on people from kind of, even if it's just an underprivileged area, maybe, like a kind of poorer area, is that kind of...
I think the government should look at starting to aim that it's on any sort of benefit, like universal credit or income support or whatever benefit is they're on, and they've got kids. I think they should be getting free Wi-Fi to start with. Like, I think they should be getting that. That's my opinion. Like, right, I think it's now a necessity. Like, some of the kids don't have you've no idea. Like, a lot of them don't have internet in the house.
I know.
Like, like how do they do their work? Like, it's even a thing that a lot of people take for granted, like things that people take for granted. Like, I'm not kidding on, like things like electricity, food in the house, heating. Like, a lot of these kids sometimes go for days when we maybe not having electricity in the house, or some of these kids, their mums are having to go 2 or 3 days without food just so they can give the kid food. There's a lot of work here that I think has to be done, a lot of work done, and it has to be done from a government level. And I think they have to look at it right across school and right across the board to try and fix this. It's a big ask, because it is broken. This system is absolutely broken.
Yeah, and I know that is a big driving force of why you started Higher Self, because you see these people every day, you see the demographic, and you see the problems that all different, but they're all facing. So, I mean, I suppose where to go with that then is that you spoke about the projects that the funding provides. What's kind of an examples of them that helps these young people?
One of the projects that we ran, it's called Fire It on a Tee. Basically, what I done is we ran it in Hillhead High School in Glasgow. My background, as well as having a clothing line, is I'm a graphic designer for a company called Pursuit Marketing in Glasgow. So I've been a graphic designer now for 10 years, and that's my trade basically. So I used what I knew to run projects for the kids, and what we ran, and taking that knowledge, the project that we ran, like I said, was called Fire in a Tea. That project, we designed, the kids wanted to design their own clothing brand. So we took it from design stage right through to production. We got people that own clothing brands to come in and give talks with the kids. We got the kids to provide Dragon's Den interviews to get their clothing put into shops. We had them get into shops. We had the Scottish Government actually come down and see us, see what the kids were doing, see all about the clothing line, and they were actually talking about letting it be launched in one of the rooms at the Houses of Parliament in Holyrood. Mm-hmm. So it was going very, very well. The project was going very, very well. It was helping a lot of kids, and then obviously COVID happened, and it kind of sidelined everything that was kind of happening.
Anything things, obviously the kids are still there. I mean, is there things that can happen virtually for them? Is there still different...
No, the kids aren't. That's the sad bit, which is the bit I find the saddest. Unfortunately, the kids I was dealing with were actually in fourth year, and they were already doing their exams. So COVID hit before the exams even hit. So once we go back, the kids that I was working with are no longer there.
Ah, right, okay.
So they won't get to have that day. They were having a big launch party. They were so excited. It was crazy. It was so nice. They were all excited to wear a suit. Like they couldn't believe that they were going somewhere. That they were going to be able to wear a suit. It was. They were really excited. It's sad.
Yeah, and you know what? You've dug deep and found a way to get that rewarding for these kids that didn't have that before. I'm assuming that's something that nobody had invested that time and effort into them before. And is that fair to say? Is that something that you kind of saw and thought, I think it's not. I guess it's not fair. I don't think it's fair to say that nobody put any time and effort in, because I'm sure there's been a lot of people that have. I just feel that the way I had an opportunity. Sorry, I'm like yeah.
No, the way I don't think there's been many. I don't think there's been many. The kids that I deal with, the kids that I've dealt with, I don't think there's been many people that's dealt with them the way that I do.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm getting at, and I think. When we use the word, thrive in our branding, like, it's a lot more than just, I don't know, just, making the best of stuff. It's more of going that wee bit deeper to turn a negative into a positive, and create an opportunity, because it's something that you have the right to do, is live your kind of best life the best you can, and create opportunities and be part of opportunities as well.
That's the big thing in it. They don't get any opportunity. Like, there's ceilings, isn't there? Like, you need to look in life. There's ceilings. Like a working class. Like, what is a working class boy that's got from Govan Hill that is getting with that? Is that type of person? What are they going to, like? Where is their ceiling in life? Like, that's what I mean. Like, society puts these kids are made to believe they're only going to be at a certain level. Like, we need to make them believe they can be whatever they want to be again. We need to make them, like, these kids aren't going to be doctors, lawyers. They don't want to do that. We really need to look into schooling and totally change it. Like, we need to put in budgeting into school and teach them about money. We need to tell them about taxing. We need to you need to have design courses, marketing. There has to be all sorts of things that different avenues for different kids, because not everybody learns the same, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to put a blanket approach and treat everybody the same way, and it doesn't work anymore. And what they're doing is they're making kids feel like they're stupid, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Some of the kids that I've dealt with have been some of the smartest kids that I've ever came across. Like, none of them have ever done a design challenge. They've never done design. They've never done anything. And you're talking about these kids with basically no help from me at all. In 8 weeks, went from having nothing at all to actually having a full clothing brand with a t-shirt and everything already made and printed and produced and ready for sale in 8 weeks from scratch themselves.
Like, because they could do it. Yeah, it's like giving just the time, the investment, and the opportunity. I don't know if attention is maybe in that as well, but it's like, but I think the main thing is you've created an opportunity so that these perceived glass ceilings are actually kind of breaking through them. So you're basically just providing, you're just pushing limits for people as well. And I think that's very important growing up, isn't it?
I think it is, and I think it's unfortunate that the schools really run off of results, and schools put their funding into what's going to get them results, like pass marks and test marks. And unfortunately, the kids that I help are never going to get the funding from the schools. So you're finding that the projects that I run, there is no funding to help these kids. There's no funding to pay for my projects. There's no funding to help that type of kid. There doesn't seem to be, not that I've came across any. None of the kids that I've helped have ever had any. So that's a big issue. We need to start, like, instead of putting their money into helping the kids who might need more help, they're putting money into the kids that are already going to smash it. Like, it makes no sense to me. It's absolutely backwards.
Yeah.
Like, I can't. I still don't wrap my head around it. They actually call them non-viable entities. That's a term that I heard somebody in a school board using. They call them non-viable entities because they're seen as a non-viable because they're non-viable in the school, so they're never going to achieve.
Why are they labeling like that? I mean, why is there a label there? Why
because
is that?
If a school, what I'm led to believe is if a school's got enough, like if they've got a certain amount of these non-viable entities, then it gets them a certain amount of funding because they're not going to get the funding from pass marks.
Right.
If you're in a school like Pollock, you need to have a certain amount of these, and it gets you more money than what a school, more funding than what a school in another area would get, basically.
The problem I see with that is that I get why, you know, something has a label and you're in a category and it equates to a certain amount of funding.
But why doesn't it be so horrific?
But why? Yeah, but surely at some point that's going to filter down to the kids' mindset and stigmatize
people. They get caught a lot worse on a daily basis, though.
I know, but this is something that can potentially define where they end up in life.
Well, I think it's already shown you that's what they do, and I think that's shown you there. I think it showed you during lockdown when what they done to the kids with their exam results, where they made them actually, like, they made their exam results worse on purpose. I think it actually shows you what they think of them, to be honest. And the only reason that get changed is because everybody kicked up a fuss. Like, it seems to be that if you're from a certain class of youth and you're a certain demographic for a certain part of the city, then you just don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always been like that, and it has to change.
Yeah. And so this is when the big questions come, Nick, so preparing you for that. What I would say then, you're doing your bit to combat that. You're creating opportunities. You started an initiative that's going to build momentum. You know what I mean? That people are going to buy into. People like, I mean, first of all, you need people to, agree with it, and that's kind of a big part of today as well. It's just kind of saying, this is the problem that we're facing. This is what we're trying to tackle. So if you had, I don't know, what is your kind of like number one priority with all of you? It's the one thing you could change within the course of a year. What would they be?
Make the kids believe that they're enough. Make them believe that they only what everybody sees them are. They're not their label, and that they can be the things that they want to be. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I like that.
That's probably the key. That's it, man. Like I don't want to go into too much, like, because I don't want to talk about any of the kids individually. But
no, I know, but I'm saying,
time, like, for example, I got a call at like maybe about the back 11 the other night for one of the boys that I used to. I mean, he was in a bit of a state, just broken down, doesn't have a job, he was just upset, like he was in a park in shorts and t-shirt in the rain in the middle of the night, man. You know what I mean? Drunk, and I was just talking to him and trying to make him feel better. Like, we need to be there for them, and we're making these kids feel terrible, and I think society's got a lot to. I think society plays a big part in it, where they're just seen as, they need to be stopped seen as just Neds, and that's it. Just because they wear a certain type of clothing or have a certain twang and accent doesn't make them a write-off. And I think we need to start looking at ways to change our schooling massively.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's a huge statement right there. It's been there. It's been there for them. It's listening. I think that's something in that example, you did alone. That's all you had to do was listen. Because we spoke about this before when we spoke just any kind of mental health drives and stuff. We all say talk, don't we? We all say let's talk, let's talk, let's talk. But do we listen?
Never. Like, I don't think we ever do. Like, even me, I probably don't listen as much as what I should. I think we're all prone to that, to be honest. They're crying out for help, and that's the thing. Like, when you see the aggression and you see them and you see that, it's just they're crying out for help. Like, that's it. It's like when people talk about violence in London, for example, and they talk about like knife crime and how it's like always black on black violence and all that, and they're doing all that. The reason that's happening is because it's the same way. Like in Glasgow, gangs, like a boy for one gang will fight another boy for another gang. It'll be so dramatic and it'll be so violent. It's because they hate themselves and they see themselves in that other person, and that's what it's to do. That's what it all comes down to. Like, these boys and lassies absolutely hate themselves, and we really need to find ways to stop our kids feeling that. These are kids. These are meant to be the future of our nation.
Yeah.
These are the kids that are like. How can we, as adults, and allow this to happen? Like, these are who's going to be teaching our kids. These are like for the generation still to come. Surely we need to start putting stuff in place to protect as many of them as we can. Like, I don't get it. I just don't understand the way we do things, I guess.
Yeah. Just one of the things that kind of stood out for me there was that they said they hate themselves, and I think we've kind of touched on a lot about the things that kind of lead to that. But are we now at a point where we need to be proactive in how we kind of reverse that or help them have a better relationship with ourselves? Is that something? Is that part of it?
Yeah, that's really part of it. And I do, like, for example, like, I guess, like, I meditate quite a bit. I do meditation. I do breath work. I've started doing that cold water therapy that everybody's doing now. I believe in a lot of that, and a lot of that stuff I do is part of the projects that I run. Like, I believe meditation is part of that. Like, it helps chill you out. It just helps you gain control again. And I think
you're paying attention to yourself. That's the first step, isn't it?
You really are. Yeah, you are, and it helps you internalize stuff and really think about. It's allowed me, for example, it's allowed all that side of stuff, and my changes allowed me to see the other person's point of view in a lot of scenarios in life, and it's allowed me to have a different outlook compared to what I would have had when I was younger, so to speak.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you an odd question about meditation, because what you're doing is you're representing, and this is maybe just how I see it as well, but how do you get an angry young teenage male, I'm not going to say like Ned or something, right? But
no, Ned, you can call me that. Like,
do you know what I mean? But like, basically, I mean, someone trying to get, I mean, so basically, you're in a very unique position. You're the kind of almost like the kind of guardian angel, that kind of go between getting them to where they want to be and maybe where they're at just now. And one of the tools you're saying there is maybe, meditation, because the first step there is you're paying attention to yourself, and that can therefore have you a better relationship with yourself, and not therefore you don't have the consequence of, I don't know, like, of aggression from, like hating yourself, like you said. And I think that's just a quite a specific part that I wanted to get into there. But how do you kind of translate kind of meditation to that then? How do you try and get somebody like that to
well, I don't know what I can, like, obviously I don't want to swear on your I mean, get you demonetized or whatever, but no, like, whenever you try to bring up a kid like that to start with, you're always getting told to F off. That's the first time they move. Yeah. Like, word just go, or they go bolt, not a chance. But I thought that, like, I used to think
as well. Yeah, I used to think that.
Not will I ever do that. That it's never going to work. It so does. And what it does is it allows you not to react. So I was quite a reactive person. So, like, with my aggression and things, I'd be really reactive and like that. And now I have a lot more control over that. Like, I wouldn't say I have, like, I guess I'm not, like, you've known me for quite a bit now. I'm not really.
No. Not to me anyway. Not to me.
Nah, I don't have any of that gone. Like, it's just,
No,
I don't see. I think about it, it's a lot of ego, man. Like, it's all ego in it.
Yeah, I think it's just I think it's just an interesting part of it to try and explain. Right, this will help. Let's just recognise that this is something that's maybe a bit of a problem just now. So let's try and work on that for you, not for anybody else, for you. And
I think meditation should be part of a school curriculum. I think they should do it in the morning. Like, I don't understand, or they should do it during, like, when they get back for lunch. I don't know. I think it should be. I think they should.
The thing I find interesting is that when they start bringing mental health stuff in the curriculum just now, is it's more just awareness just now. I suppose maybe that is the first step, but for kids, and then they can maybe go into stuff like ways to help, because I think it's just very hard to explain to anybody to try and
I think it's all just virtue signalling, to be honest. I think they'll just try to tick a box to say that we do this, but they don't actually try to actually help, man.
You need to underneath that a wee bit, and
it's like the same way, for example, companies like Marks and Spencer's, for example, for like Grey Pride, have like rainbow flags on their sandwiches, but then put none of the money towards any gay or any LGBTQ like charity. It's the same stuff. It's just a box ticking exercise to say that we do this mental health thing, but they don't actually do anything to help the kids' mental health. Like, what he's actually like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, nothing's actually done.
Instead, we're like signposting a day of the year or a week of the year for awareness for anything. You know what I mean? And I think that's just I think the reason we do that is to make it easier for branding, you know, to kind of say, oh, we support this because we put a post up.
Everything's content now. That's what that's all stems from. It's just so everybody gets something to post.
PR, man. It's PR.
It is. Like, they need to learn, like, boys need to learn. That's one of the things that they find hard to start with. The boys, like, they come from the same sort of upbringing that I did, where boys don't talk about stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Like, boys don't talk about feelings. Like, you know, they're quite aggressive. They've been taught like, boys fight. This is what they do. It's just their upbringing. It's what they'll get taught, and to get them to open up and to get them to trust you and to speak about how they actually feel, like, that's hard. That's the hardest bit. That's harder than eating. That's harder than getting them to meditate. That's harder than getting them eating. Getting to see the real who they really are is one of the hardest things to do.
Can that change?
I think society has to change, because I think even as society, I think it's very hard to see who the real person of anybody really is. I think everybody's always got some sort of mask on in terms of that. So I don't think it'll ever truly go away. But I think that we need to be teaching our youth and especially like our boys, that whenever you're feeling like a certain way, it's good to be able to speak about that. And maybe, hopefully, if we did start to do that and stop thinking it was, I don't know, I use certain words to describe it, but if people, like, maybe if we did start teaching our kids that it's good to talk about stuff like that, they wouldn't be killing themselves at an alarming rate.
Mm-hmm. No, and you know what, it's stark, but it does have to be said.
Male suicide is through the roof, male youth suicide is through the roof, and child suicide is through the roof, and we really need to start asking ourselves questions about why this is.
Mm-hmm. And it goes back to listening as well, you know, and it's and listen, like, I've told you a million times before, but I think you're doing a real pioneering job of breaking this down and getting to the root of it and getting underneath problems and getting underneath the reasoning and understanding.
I think the reason I can do it, like, I'll be honest, I think I'm quite good at it, and the reason I think I'm quite good at it is because I've lived it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been from one spectrum to the other. Like, I was a horrible, like, I was not a nice person before. I was very aggressive. I had quite a troubled upbringing, and then I had stuff happen to me when I was a kid, and it wasn't very nice. And then that crash happened, and I ended up with PTSD. So I was a really messed up individual, and I wasn't nice. I went for a long time, a long period of my time being I'm just not a very nice person, and it took me a long time to come back for that. And it took me a long time to, I don't know, I guess, love who I'm again, like who I'm like, to be me. Like, they're always trying to make you be like everybody else. There's only one of you. Just be yourself. Don't just be your weird self, man. Just embrace it, man. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because the minute you try and be like everybody else, it's when your mental health starts deteriorating, I think, massively.
Yeah, do you know what? It's a perfect note to end on that, because you've said that so much better than I could have there, and I think it's doesn't matter how strong a message needs to be, has to get across, and I think you do that really well. I think Higher Self is really going to inspire many to join you, and
we've not even spoke about the clothing. I'm launching that this month, so that'll be launched within about a month. The clothing's actually going live in a month, so people can start buying that. You can get it from our website. We've also we've just became affiliated with a Glasgow band called Arcade State, who are amazing and very up and coming. So like people should be able to check them out too. So, but before we go, have you been doing anything recently? No, anything like what you've been working on?
No, just trying to get Thrive Thru back in the go.
Have you? Anything else?
No, I've been doing a wee bit of music, but that's trying to get that out there. But but that's just something I did to just to kind of deal with my mental health, I suppose, as well. I don't know. I spend a lot of time myself. I spend a lot of time.
Is that your outlet?
That is, aye. It's kind of picking up a guitar and putting some feelings along with it.
A lot to you. What you've got coming, man. It means a lot. There's a lot of you wrapped up in this. It's different. You've got a lot of emotion in this one.
Aye, it's I find that music a wee bit easier to express feelings and emotion. For me, like I can do an alright job at kind of telling someone else's story, and I suppose that is kind of my job to do that, working in the media. But it's I don't know, just when I spend time myself, that's when stuff really comes out. Aye, and then just rather than, I mean, I do journal and write things down as well, but I don't know, there's just something quite harmonic about kind of emotion going along with some chords as well. So
I totally agree with you. Like if I can, I'm a big baby. I'll cry at a movie and all that. But honestly, music moves me far more emotionally than what anything else does. Aye. Like it's
powerful, isn't it?
I'd love to be able to sing. Like, see, like if you could sing, like I can't sing for anything, but see if you could see that, like,
to hear this.
Like, see, for example, see Lewis Capaldi, for example. Like, see the way he just rips out, like, he belts out these songs. Can you imagine how much, you would get, if you were feeling bad, you'd get all that out instantly doing that, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of different ways to do it. I mean, I don't know, just I know that, like Catherine, whatever, she spoke about, like, playing piano or violin, just kind of instrumentally, just kind of, it's a good kind of, it's like a release, isn't it? I think that's just what we're trying to get at, and it's it's art for a reason. It's a form of expression.
It's saying I draw, it's I paint, I do my design.
I think creative people, I'm not saying that all creative people stems from something, but it says a lot about somebody, I think, how creative they are. I think if someone can be quite creative in new ideas and put things and they're able to transfer their emotion and feelings into like tangible works of art, like drawings, like paintings, like music, like, I don't know, I think that says a lot about people, because it's like their voice isn't getting heard through the conventional means, so they're so they're finding an outlet for it, and that's why I always say Thrive Thru is about giving mental health a voice, because it's something I feel quite passionately about. It's something that it's a topic that I wish people that had that had a louder voice, that had more people talking, that had more people engaged more than anything.